Just wait until you see what I did to this little $20 cabinet. Well, hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Melissa, owner and artist here at the Top Drawer RVA. And for today's project, it's a $20 flip that I picked up at an estate sale. This is a washstand. The size is not very big, but it is super cute and I love to paint a tiny washstand. Let's have a closer look at this piece and see how we are going to repair it. There are some damage on the sides of this piece where there used to be an existing harp that attached to the back plate. I'm going to remove that with a hammer and a screwdriver and not put back on the harp that's on this piece. I feel like adding a harp to the back piece might give it a little bit of a dated look. So we will inspect it, take off the hardware, and then clean it very well with white lightning. I was lucky enough to find the rest of the hardware that belongs to the front of this piece inside the drawer, so that is a good luck charm, as well as the fact that I did find something else inside. Wait until you see. There are a lot of stains on this piece on top of the wood, but check out those little square head nails. That dates this piece before the 1900s. So what other treasure did I find inside of this piece? Well, it's a dime, and it's a dime from 1945. Did you know that they used real silver back in 1945 to make dimes? I did check it on Google. It's only worth a couple bucks, but I'll totally keep it because it's super cute. So what's the plan for this little piece? Well, we are going to stay a little bit rustic. We're going to keep the top pretty much as is, and we're going to paint a beautiful scene on the front of this piece. Now, for the bird painting that I'm going to attach to the front, I'm going to be painting a blue heron. I honestly turned off the camera because it's really hard to film something so detailed, but I did put a fast motion of the rest of the piece at the end of the video.
So, welcome. What have I done so far? Well, this little cabinet, we're going to work on the front. I picked up at an estate sale a couple weeks ago. She be super old. This cabinet has nap joints. Can you see those beautiful joints right there on the side? That means they are nap joints. Nap joints date from the late 1800s. They were stopping manufacturing, I believe, in around 1910. So this cabinet is very old. It is most likely made from oak. It was in fairly heavy disrepair though. There was some holes over here and some broken pieces that would have held up almost like a washing harp on the front. And it does have a crack in the door and the hardware is broken. So you might want to yell at me for painting wood. Go for it. Somebody yells at me for painting wood every single day. But this cabinet is not in the best condition. So it is not a candidate for restoration. And besides the fact, I don't restore stuff. I paint stuff. I live my life in color and have a little fun. And maybe you want to join me. So what are we going to do today? We are going to paint the front of this. I've taped off the top so that I don't get paint up here on this part of the cabinet, because that is where I will be either leaving this original old patina that's on the top, or I will be sanding it down and staining the top. But for the front and sides of this piece, the entire game plan is based around something that I will be painting on top. This is going to be a ocean marsh scene with a very large blue heron right here in the front. Because why not? Why not paint something that's wild and wonderful and you love versus one color boring paint, right? So this is what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you the side. I worked on this morning to kind of get out the game plan, get my horizon line set. This is all done with acrylic chalk base mineral paint from Dixie Belle. I did put a link in the description if you're looking to buy it. It works great for furniture. Once you get this on here, you can see it with wax or clear coat. It's up to you. I actually think for this project, I will be sealing it with wax after I most likely do a wash of a darker stain over top. I kind of want to age it up a little bit. It did dry a little darker than when we put the paint down. Chalk paint always dries a little bit darker, but I think I want it even more older. So I might wash this with a bit of a dark stain just to age it a little bit more. I most likely will sand and distress some of the corners to age it a little bit more, but this is what we're going to paint today. It's going to be a sunrise or a sunset, whatever your little heart desires, right here on the front of the project. You ready to go? Let's begin. Okay, so this door itself, sorry, I put this on a little moving rack underneath here, like there's wheels hiding under here. This door doesn't stay closed, okay? It's broken. I'm going to be ordering a small little metallic latch that will sit on the inside and allow me to click open and click close this drawer or this door. And the hardware up here, I found one was on the piece, one was broken in the drawer. And hey, guess what else I found in this? I found a dime from like 1940. It's the cutest little thing. And I Googled it and researched it. Do you know that dimes, way back in the day in America, were actually made of 90% silver? It's only worth about $2.50, but that was a fun thing to find. So I've actually put it in an envelope and I'm saving it because it's so cute. It's so cute. I love finding old things in furniture. And that was stuck way in the back underneath the drawer. But I did find the other part to the broken hardware, so I'm hoping I can repair it and then put those back on. When possible, I like to keep with original hardware. I find it's true and authentic to the piece, and it makes your furniture look better if you stick with the original hardware instead of changing it up and adding anything new or modern. This is not a new or modern piece. This will definitely be rustic. We're definitely going low coastal vibes to the front of this, and there will be a beautiful heron painted on the front. It's going to be flippin' fantastic. So let's get started. So what kind of brushes do I like to use when I do this style of painting? I like to use natural fiber brushes. Natural fiber brushes just give me the effect that I'm going for. All the paints on the floor, I can tell you the colors as I go along, but if you're going to mimic this look, most likely you'll just add in the colors that you like. I like to do a moody sky. When I say moody, that means that it is a little dark, it is a little gray, it is a little stormy, all right? I don't like it to be pretty. I want it to have some feeling to it. So this scene will have a little bit of sun in the middle. And I started this morning to create my horizon line so I know where my horizon line will be. So I'm going to start by just marking off where my horizon line is going to sit. And we're going to paint. And I'm going to have to hold this door because it won't shut and I haven't bought the latch yet. All right, Bunker Hill blue, starting off with some blue. Now, do you need to prime your furniture before you paint? You don't have to. The plan for this piece is to wax it. I prefer a wax finish over top of my hand-painted work because I feel like it just looks better. It looks more aged and authentic. So I will be waxing on top of this. If I were to come in here and really want to paint something and really worry that it was going to get touched a lot and worked on and want to seal it really well, I would definitely use a clear coat. I don't want to though. I like wax. I like the darkness of a wax. I like the flatness of a wax. You can always seal your work with a clear coat and then come back in and put wax over top as well. Okay? So all I'm going to do is start to create this beautiful moody sky. There's no rules in painting. Don't let anybody tell you there is because there's not. You can paint whatever you like. You can paint antique cabinets. You can paint brand new cabinets. Don't ever listen to haters on social media that yell at you for painting wood. Actually, I had somebody today who told me I should have stained that box instead of painting that box because wood is so beautiful. Sure it is. Is it pretty? Yes. Is what I'm going to do even prettier? Yeah. And anyways, free will and all means I'm going to paint whatever the heck I want. But you know, if you want to comment and be cranky pants, go for it because every single comment helps my journey, right? As a painter. Engagement, posting, all that fun stuff. So, don't be a hater. Have fun with your paint. Nobody cares if you paint wood furniture. So I'm just going to get in here right now and really get this paint mashed on. I'm not mixing my colors yet. I'm not adding my clouds yet. I'm really just kind of coming in and laying down my color pattern. I've started my horizon line to match my side. I know it has to be pretty much sky down to here, the sunshine in the middle, and clouds coming up the top. So I'm going to use my Moody Blues to really get in here and some gray as well to give this sky some depth. We want the sky to be cranky. I like an angry sky. That means a lot of Mason-Dixon gray for me when I'm painting. Mason-Dixon gray has a really pretty color to it. Sorry, I'm looking for my spray misting bottle filled with water. If you were a spray misting bottle filled with water, where would you be? You would be on the floor. Behind me? Somewhere? Somewhere. I don't know where it is. Where could it go? I mean, we're gonna dip this in a little bit of my water then for my paintbrushes because I need to thin my paint a little bit. And I just want to really get it mashed into the grain. When you're painting oak, you're gonna find that it is porous. It's gonna take a little bit more manipulation to really jam it in. And I'm really just working with this rustic vibe on the piece, pushing the paint into all of the little nooks and crannies. But Mason-Dixon gray is a great color for a sky that you might want to give a little moodiness to, okay? So we're gonna mix up our blues. We're gonna get this base on here. I really wish I knew where that's, I see one. I'm gonna get up and get it. Excuse my jumping around while I look for my spray misting bottle. There's another one behind me. I can reach it. We'll take this one. There we go. We got one. We're back, we're back. And I just literally sat down and put my hand in paint. Every video I tell you, if you're not getting messy, you're not doing it right. So I must be doing something right. Wipe that off. Get my spray misting bottle and spray my brush. So I just really want to mash it in here, even onto the edges of this cabinet on the sides. We're going to be doing rustic vibes on this cabinet. So I will be painting hinges. I will be painting over the metal. And when I sand it back, you are going to see some wood, okay? That's how we're rolling over here. We're going to do it this way. But dabbing on my blues to create this moody sky. We're going to come in after I get this kind of first coat down. We're going to age up the corners a little more. And we are going to add our clouds. In the clouds, we're going to be adding some reds, some yellow, and we're going to paint this thing pretty with a little bit of Dixie Belle paint products. As always, these videos do get modified for my YouTube channel. So if you only catch part of this video today and you're wondering, hey, how did that cabinet turn out? You can find out on my YouTube. Please come over and follow me there at the Top Drawer RVA. I am the same across all social media, the same name, so you can find me easily. And you can see my finished products over there. So using this French tip brush allows me to really get the paint in here and push it into the really kind of porous wood. This is a dry old wood. I left this crack here. I love this. I want it to look old. And we're just going to blend our paint out until we kind of get a base. Once I get this base down, I can work on clouds, I can work on my horizon line, and we can eventually get to the point where I'm going to be hand painting on my beautiful blue heron. Or an egret. I haven't decided yet if it's going to be blue or if it's going to be white. Okay, loving how this is looking so far. I'm going to keep going with the moodiness. I'm going to grab a bit of a lighter color for the middle because this will be where the sun is. So naturally when you look at a sunrise or a sunset, it's going to be brighter down here where the sun is. And keep filling in until you're ready to go. I've got a lot of tutorials up on YouTube about how to paint scenes. I'm really into painting scenes lately. Sheep, countryside meadows, Tuscan style villas, things like that. And I think I see a lot of people commenting things like, I don't know if they are afraid to try it or if they don't want to try it or if they don't think that they would be successful. But how do you know unless you try is my big question. I think you need to really kind of get in here and play with paint a lot to figure it out. But I promise you, anybody can do this base, this cloudy, moody base, which we're going to add clouds on top of. And I'm still using the same brush. I haven't cleaned it, haven't done anything. I've double dipped it. You're going to want to keep the same brush. just so you can really move the colors around and make it authentic. When you take too much time and you start to overly plan things, you're going to find that that's when stuff starts to look weird. If you're too precise with what you're painting, maybe you come in with like a small brush and you're like super worried and it's just not turning out the way that you thought it would, that's when it starts to get, you know, harder to do. If you can stay loosey-goosey, and by not washing off your brush, that's helpful. It really helps you create an authentic looking sky. Okay, so this is going to be my horizon line. If I look at the side of the piece, I'll turn it around again so you can see the side that I painted this morning. We've got the marsh, we've got my horizon line, we've got some bushes, we've got the sunset of the sides, right? Because the sunset, sunrise is going to be on the front. So this is just kind of carrying over from what I'm designing on the front. This is a really good way for me to practice kind of like a dry run. But I do have to follow that same horizon line. So now on the bottom, I'm going to actually jump into a lighter bit of a blue. This is called Vintage Duck Egg. Can you see the bottom? Can you see my hand? You can. This is where the ocean, the marsh part of my photo that I'm drawing, would I call it a photo? My scene that I'm drawing is going to be. So I'm going to do the lighter bit of blue down here because we are creating a marsh. Where can I put Santa? This is my dirty paintbrush. It lives in an old Santa mug from the dollar store. We'll move him over here. Okay, so I'm going to do a bit lighter down here because this is where I'm going to start to blend in my marsh scene. So first thing that goes down is my sky. Then it's my marsh base. Then we're going to move into the grass and the clouds. And then I'll stop because I'm going to have to actually grab a reference photo from an old book that I have in order to paint on my blue heron. Can I paint a blue heron? Sure thing. Do I need a reference photo? Most definitely. These brushes get so much love that they go from like a pointed version, which is when you first get them, they're nice and pointy like this. They end up like this. I use these brushes like crazy. French tip brushes are so good for doing these scenes. So I'm going to continue on with my lighter duck egg, vintage duck egg blue. And I'm even going to mix a little bit of that kind of sea glass in here. Because like I said, this is going to be the marsh part of my painting. And I'm going to come into a little bit of black on the edges. If I get quiet, it's just because I'm thinking. I can't talk and think at the same time. So much paint on my hands. And again, this door doesn't close, so I have to hold it. Okay, so what's next? Now I've got my base, right? My base of my painting. I've got my sky, which is angry and blue and moody, mixed with a lot of gray, right? Coming in lighter in the middle because the sun will be about here, right? And then I have to do my horizon line. So next up is I'm going to grab a brush, and because I have this horizon line on the left-hand side, I'm going to use the same line and kind of mimic it across the front. Now, here's a handy tip for you. If you are new to painting a scene, the hack is to not paint your horizon line in the middle. If you came right here and painted horizon line right in the middle, it's going to put your photo, like the picture that you're thinking in your head, off kilter. When anybody looks at a piece of art, I want you to imagine that there is a hashtag in front of this, okay? I've taken nursing classes. I'm a nurse, actually. I've taken art classes where one of the only things I really remember from laying out your piece of art so that it makes sense is that you need to think in forms of a hashtag. One of these hashtags, you can almost imagine that this square right here would be the hashtag on this piece if you moved it up a little bit. Your eye is always going to come in from the left. Remember, your screen right now is flipped. On Facebook, it flips my screen. So your eye is going to come in from that side, come up in a circle, and exit to the right. It's the way your eye naturally moves when you look at a piece of art. okay? So your eye is always going to come down here. So that means your main focal point has to be over one of these hashtag intersections. So when I paint my bird is actually going to be standing to the right, off center, with its head up here. My heron's going to come down like this and over to the right with his tall feet, so that when you look at it, your eye comes in this way, travels up and out. If you can cover those bases when you're painting naturally, your artwork is going to look a lot more, it's just going to look better. It's going to look a lot more functional by doing it that way. Okay, so there's my horizon line that I've copied from the side. If you want to look at the side one more time, I can turn it around. Check that out. There's the horizon. We're going to be painting this in the front. And again, to the front right here. Okay, so now that we've got my image, I'm going to take the drawer out so that I can get a little bit more blue paint up and under this drawer. Because it just sits wood on wood, I want this piece to be covered in paint so that when somebody looks at it, this part is not going to show wood. I don't want wood showing. So I'm just going to do that really quick so that when I put my drawer in and it sits flush, you're not going to hit any weird wood in this kind of line of vision, right? All right, let's see. Oh, you love it. Thank you, Cindy. Okay, so now we have used the same brush for the entire piece. It's all moody blues, moody grays, even a little bit of black sands, which is technically a charcoal. And we're going to start to work on some clouds right now. So if my bird is sitting to the right, my sunshine can be center, but it should be around here, right? My sunlight is going to come from here. So when I start to do these clouds, it doesn't matter where I put them. What you need to think about is that under the clouds is going to be the light, right? The light's coming up from this sun that we're going to be putting right in the middle. So let's start with some basic clouds and we're going to talk about this. I'm going to grab a fresh brush with nothing on it. And I'm going to take this fluff, which is technically not true fluff anymore. I keep this in my bin for when I'm painting scenes because it looks like that. There's paint in there that's not white. And it's chunky and kind of old, but that's okay. Okay? So I'm going to hold my finger on my door. I'm going to turn this a little bit so I can look at it. I want there to be a lot of clouds. If you go ahead and put a cloud right here in the middle, you know what's going to happen? It's going to look silly. Clouds aren't that natural and in the middle. I want to think a little bit more organically. So to be honest, I'm just going to hit this on a couple of different places, and that's where my clouds are going to be. Okay? That's the easiest way to think about it. Less thinking, the better. Okay? So let's start moving some of this paint to create some clouds. I'm going to spray with a bit of water. And we're just going to start to create some lighter areas. If it helps you, go ahead and spray your piece versus spraying your brush. Makes no difference. I just want to really kind of lighten up some spots to start my clouds for my scene. This is going to be a marsh scene. And I don't even care if I get wood peeking through, okay? Because this is a rustic piece. We want it to look as rustic as possible. And the more precise you get with your fussing, the less real it's going to look, okay? Same thing goes over here. Let's start to take those little drops of white that we started and move them around. Okay, so now that I know that my clouds are going to be in these spots, we've got the base and the start for my clouds. This is already dry, obviously not going to keep it like that. I'm going to go into a smaller brush. I've got some artisan brushes here on the floor that I like to use for clouds. You can use whatever size you like, whatever style you like. Listen, none of my stuff is going to be clean. Everything's going to be dirty. Diane, if you're watching, turn away now. My friend Diane is very neat and tidy and proper. I, my friends, am not. Let's start to add a little bit more white to these clouds because I want to give them a little bit more of an organic feel. So I'm just dipping into my white paint and adding a little bit more pigment where some of these clouds are going to be sitting. Spray that with some water a little bit. And just by softening these edges, we're just softening what we're working on. Small little swirly motions, really getting that in there. Thank you, Rhonda. Thanks for watching today. Now, I will tell you one little hack. If you're painting a scene like this, you need to know that your sides are going to match your front. Okay? You can't have your horizon line up here and then down here on the side. So every once in a while, turn your piece. This is going to get harder to do because I'm sitting on top of a canvas sheet. Okay, can you see how these clouds are just kind of sitting on the side here, right? These clouds are coming in. So there's kind of a mass of clouds right here. If I turn this piece and there's no massive clouds joining up to it, that's going to be weird. So we need to add a little bit more just to make it cohesive, okay? And again, I'll come in and add a little bit more texture to these clouds as I move along. But for now, knowing that my clouds on my left-hand side are matching up with my clouds on the right-hand side is important. It's important to kind of keep a little bit of consistency when you're doing this. So this brush is doing great for kind of blending out. If you want a more precise cloud, I suggest going for a smaller brush and then taking it and starting to swirl it around. Go fast. If you go slow and precise, it's not going to look the way that you want it to. If you go fast and helter-skelter, it's a lot easier to stay, I don't know, more, the word I'm looking for is flowy. If you take too much time and you fuss with it way too much, you're going to start to really get weird clouds. Does that make sense? The more loosey-goosey you are, the better it's going to look. The better it's going to look. Trust me in this. If you feel like you don't like that line, it's okay. You can wet your brush, soften that line out a little bit. You want to add a little bit of color to that, you can dip a tiny bit in your blues and add a little bit of blue to your clouds. Clouds, go outside, go look at the sky, go see what you see when you go outside. They don't always look the same. They don't always look white. You sometimes have clouds with a little bit of gray at the bottom. I could grab a little bit of my Mason-Dixon gray on this brush and add a little bit of gray to my clouds. Get some angry clouds in there, right? We're getting Bob Ross-ish today. We're definitely having a little bit of fun. Let's add a little bit of anger to my clouds with some gray. This will be a great focal point too, that when my heron sits here, it's going to have some nice light clouds behind it that are going to really let it shine. Because that little heron is going to be the thing that really makes this piece. The back is going to be looking more abstract. And then the front, where I'm going to end up putting that heron, is definitely going to be, my heron is going to be super detailed. It's going to take me a long time. Don't judge me if I don't film it, because it's going to take me so long. I probably won't have enough time to like sit and fuss with the camera. I'll probably just turn my camera off, to be honest, and just go with the flow. Okay, let me show you another way to do some clouds. Okay, so I'm going to grab some paper towel. I'm going to spray this. I'm going to spray this. So let's start to just maneuver them around a little bit. By touching the areas, let's put a little white there so I can show you. Okay, so here's your white. There's my spray. There's my touching. Can you see how that makes a little bit of a difference? I don't want this whole section to be white. Let's add a little bit of moodiness. Just kind of touching in those clouds, taking off some of the paint, showing the wood underneath, making this piece more authentic. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. Let's really manipulate some of this paint to be less fussy and more organic. I really wish this door would stay shut, but it's broken and I don't have the latch yet. So let's just start to add in some of this. When you start to do this, when you start to mess it up some, right? When you make it less perfect is when the magic really starts to happen. Let's add in some more white up here, just so I can show you. I mean, look, I'm literally scribbling with my brush. Spray with water. Pat, touch, drip, create movement. Remembering that when chalk mineral paint is wet like this, it's going to be a little bit darker than when it dries. When this dries, it's not going to look exactly the same. You're going to definitely want to come in after it starts to get dry and really assess what you've done and make sure you've got everything where you want it to be, because it's not going to be the same wet as it is going to be dry. What are we thinking so far? Is it looking like a real sky? Are you able to kind of get the idea of what I'm going for now with those tiny bits of wood peeking through? I will come in when it is dry and sand the edges. Let's work on the horizon line, okay? So now, I kind of have like a base. Do I want more white? Most likely. I mean, I feel like that's what's missing on the left-hand side is when I look at this, I prefer, I think, more clouds than sky. But then again, I really want the back to kind of disappear because that bird will be sitting right on the front. So let's work on the middle where we're going to start to add in. Sorry, I'm just touching. If I don't touch it and move it around and get it to where I want it to go, it's going to bother me. So let's talk about the colors I'm going to use on the sides. So could I open some kernel mustard on the side and a little bit of some orange? I could. But do I have like other paint colors here on the floor that are just basic latex paint? I do. So I'm just going to grab some yellow and some orange. How do we feel about pink? A little bit of pink, just a touch possibly. Maybe some purple. And we're going to start to make my sunset, sunrise, I don't care, whatever you like. So this is where my sunrise will be, right here in this big crack, because my bird is going to be sitting here, okay? That means I'm going to have to start to add in some shades of grayish kind of color coming in, right? Because this is where the fun starts to happen. Can you see? Should you come in a little bit closer? I've got so much stuff on the floor, but I think we could probably jingle jaggle you to the front. Let's aim you down a little bit more. So let's start to create our horizon line. I'm thinking definitely yellow in the front, a little bit of this purple. I think I want to actually add some darkness. I'm going to actually dip into my black sands, and I'm going to keep using the same brush. Okay? We're going to get the sky a little bit angry. Let's take some water. I'm going to spray some water onto my plate. I've got a paper plate on the floor. Spraying the water in is going to let me start to mash these colors together a little bit and give me a little bit more movement. I'm literally making this up as I go along. I don't have a reference photo. I have nothing on the floor. All I have in my head is what I've done to the side already, okay? Knowing that this is going to be the most yellow here, the most yellow here. This is not my horizon. These are still clouds. I actually think I might even have to really lighten up with some white down here. Okay? And let's get into some of the yellow. So I'm going to grab some of this yellow and we're going to start to layer. Are you thinking I've made a terrible mistake yet? I'm not. There's a plan. There is a method behind the madness. Let's keep going with a little bit of this yellow. So it's almost like when I do the water in the bottom in the marsh, I'm going to have the same reflection on the bottom for the sky. I think I would like to open my Mojave and my Gold Digger. This is a metallic paint. Okay, and open that up and put that over here on the floor. And I have a yellow somewhere. Holy guacamole. There it is. Okay, this is Mojave. Can you see how that's a little bit more rich? Let's start to blend some colors. Okay, same goes for that orange. I want this piece to feel coastal vibes. Sorry, I have to put my head in the front a little bit because I need to look from the front. I need more. So I'm going to start to bring in some of the gold. Not too much, okay? Because sometimes I can get carried away with the gold. But you don't want the gold to be the star of the show. I want the color and the design layering to be the star of the show. Looking back at my reference, there's a lot of yellow on the sides. I don't want too much. I don't want too much yellow. If anything, I'm going to bring some clouds in here, I think. Let me switch out my brush and grab some white. And I'm going to spray my plate. I feel like I want to mash in some lights. Like I feel like if this was a sunrise or sunset, I'm going to see more light in the middle, right? Because the sun is going to be here. So let's mash in some clouds a little bit. Better already. Already better. Can you see that little bit of lightness coming in? Let's work on the horizon line. The horizon line is going to be in greens, shades of green. I have on the floor some chocolate. I have briar patch. This bucket of paint right here, these are not true paint colors. I can't even really tell you what color it is as I use it because these are my paint mixing colors. The inside of them has like 50 shades of every other color inside of it. It's how we roll. It's how we do things over here, okay? All right, let's take some briar patch and work on this horizon line. This is going to be almost like a faded marsh trees. This is my line, remember. I'm not going to go any lower than that for my horizon. And I'm going to be mixing in some lighter green as well. I want this to be very abstract. I don't want this to be defined at all. And I might even add in some browns. Okay, so there's my horizon line. I think that this needs to be full yellow all the way across. This yellow is a bit thinner in color, so it's going to take a couple layers to build it up. And once I do get closer to the end where this whole thing is painted, there'll be a lot of really thick strokes like this to really pull it together. One side needs to have a little bit more of a color. I don't like it to be too matchy-matchy. So I won't do exactly this to the other side, because that wouldn't be the case. If this was a real sunset, you wouldn't see the same shade of orange across the entire thing. What's going to go down here? Gold. Let's add a little bit of gold. And I'm going to wash off my brush and just add a little bit of darkness over here, I think. Let's mash up some blue. Okay, so let's work on my sunshine. The sunshine is going to be the brightest yellow. Okay, so I'm going to go straight into the yellow, and it's just going to be like a little ball of light right here on my horizon. And I might even mix in a little bit.
I get the question often when I post these videos about why don't you paint the whole thing at one time? Well, majority of my work is broken up into different parts. I video some parts for YouTube, some parts for Facebook. Honestly, at the end of the day, doing side by side by side and each section is a separate video works for me. But just know that it does get all painted the same. It just goes one piece at a time. Cleaned the top of the piece and added a little bit of a slight sand scuff just to make sure that I could try and remove any of the damages that were on the top. Those stains were in pretty deep, so even though I'll be adding some gel stain to the top, you're still going to see a couple little marks, which is okay, and I really want to still see all of those nail head pieces at the top that are square because it just shows the true age of this piece of furniture. So using the color walnut, I'm just going to wipe on a tiny little bit of stain just to even it out a little bit, refresh that very old wood. And to be honest, I didn't even seal the top of it after I applied the gel stain. If I was very heavy-handed and adding a whole new darker vibe to the top of this piece, I would use gator hide or a satin clear coat. But for this purpose, it's honestly just like a little bit of a refresh for the old wood. Let's work on the interior of this drawer. It's already been cleaned with white lightning, so it is clean, but it could use a little bit of a refresh as well. This is a really handy hack for old drawers that might have marks inside or stains inside. You want to take about a 50-50 mix of butter, which is a salve made for wood, as well as about the same amount of gel stain. If you mix it together and then apply it with a rag or an applicator pad, you can fresh up the wood that's inside the drawer and give that stain a little bit of a covered look. Give it a try. It works really well. We're almost finished here. We're going to add a little bit of some gold gilding wax to the lip of this drawer. What that's going to do is give you kind of like a border line between the paint and the wood. I don't like to usually use paint on the edges of furniture because then it might stick a little bit, but this at least gives it a finished look and keeps with the authentic vibe of this piece. I also added a touch of gilding wax to the corners of the cupboard door and around the edges of the inset panel. I'm going to talk about hardware for a quick minute. I do feel like using the original hardware as much as possible onto a piece of furniture is the best way to keep it looking polished. If you start adding in modern hardware to a piece this old, it's going to look very strange. Since this door was missing a key and it didn't close anymore, I found a little lock that I picked up at my local Home Depot and just attached that on the interior. It has a magnetic closure that allows the door to open and close easily. I sealed the entire base of this piece in Dixie Belle's clear wax and added a little bit of darker wax to the corners. I hope that you liked my Bob Rossish inspired video today. Give it a try. Paint this background on something and then add your own detail to the front. I'm sure you will love it. And let me tell you, this kind of a piece sells like hotcakes. Have a great day. I'll see you next week.